Now, this is a bit ghetto, but at least we're going to be able to see how this trigger works. So there's first stage. You can see first stage stop is set by that little screw there acting on this pin. That's the first stage travel and stop, so it returns back to this position, and the total travel is set by that as well. So if you wound this screw further in, you would shorten this travel because the blade would be set further back. So now, a bit difficult to see, but here is the second part of the blade, which I'm calling the undercarriage. Let's get it in focus. That's the undercarriage, and it pivots on this pin here. So as you take up first stage, let's tip this so you can see. For every millimeter of movement you're pushing down, this undercarriage is also being pushed down, probably midway by a screw. See if I can make it so you can see. Can't focus there. You can just see it's moving. It's being tilted on its axis, and at the same time, that undercarriage, which you can see here at the back there, that is acting upon the sear, kind of like the first stage take up on a CD trigger. So we can see there that both the blade, the top carriage, and the undercarriage are moving, but in relation to each other, the blade is moving a lot further than the undercarriage. You can just see that the blade's moving, like pushing like 3 millimeters, maybe 5 millimeters, and that undercarriage is moving like 1 millimeter. You can also see that spring just on the underside there, within there. I'm looking through the camera, so you have to bear with me. The spring is down inside there. That is acting directly on what looks to be like the release sear on the trigger itself. You can see it there compressing. Now that looks like to be the spring that acts upon that sear. Now the T01, and that sear normally has that spring that sits on that platform there like that, which normally sits on the underside of this platform, which this platform is completely omitted on the competition unit. You would have to take that off. So this spring is like twice the length and much weaker. It's much finer coil. I can see it's a much weaker spring on this competition unit. Focus. There we go. Oh, it's going around again. There we go. So this spring is probably going to be about, to focus, the spring on the competition unit is going to be about so long on that sear, and it acts directly from the blade, from the underside of the blade, which is the undercarriage part of the blade, which is this part. To focus on here again, from this part, from there, directly onto the sear. So you can see that moves, takes up the slack, and the sear is obviously adding weight, and that sear slowly starts to tip until you've set your second stage stop, and then once you get to there, you then pull, and obviously that releases which I've got nothing cocked in this trigger, so there's first stage taken up. Well, first to second stage, and then second stage is this blade can be moved anywhere along. It looks like there's two positions for what looks like the rear screw. I'm not going to take this apart because this is all set up for the gentleman who owns it. But this can move along, so you can set any position, and it looks like it maybe rotate. Not so sure, but and this little grub screw here is obviously the first stage travel and stop. So you've got two parts of the trigger. As I said before, you've got this top part, which extends in a carriage. We'll call it a carriage. And then you've got this bottom part, which pivots on this point. So this blade pivots on this pin. It acts upon another, I call it the undercarriage, but it's actually a sear that pivots on that pin, which goes all the way through to here, which also has an adjustment screw on it going down, and then the weight is set between that sear and the actual release sear on the trigger. And I'm betting there's a spring between this top part and this under part with adjustment as well to set that first stage. That's about as far as I want to go with this. It's an absolute thing of beauty though. Oh man, if they still made these. Anyway, hope that explains how this trigger looks to work. It's off. I don't think it came on the 54. I think it came on something else, and this gentleman's added it to this 54. Anyway, there's a better shot. You can actually see the spring directly acting on that rear sear. You can just see that rear sear, which is just there. You can see the spring acting direct on it, where on the stock T01 it doesn't direct act on it. There's actually two springs involved. Okay.